What if I told you that the greatest enemy you've ever faced isn't the government, the economy, or even the person who wronged you? What if I told you that the most dangerous force in your life isn't out there, but inside your own mind? In 1938, I sat down to write a manuscript that I kept hidden for more than 70 years. A manuscript so controversial, so brutally honest, that the world wasn't ready to hear it. But I didn't write it for the world. I wrote it for the man or woman who dares to think. I wrote it for the soul who knows there's something more, something deeper than motivational slogans or surface-level advice. What you're about to read is not a metaphor. It's not fiction. It's a dialogue, a real one. Not with a man, but with an intelligence. An entity. A force I call the devil. But before you let your imagination wander into superstition or religious imagery, let me be clear. The devil I spoke to didn't carry a pitchfork. He didn't wear red or breathe fire. He was far more dangerous than that. He was invisible, subtle, intelligent, persuasive. The devil revealed to me that he doesn't need to possess your body to destroy you. He only needs one thing, your mind. And once he has it, he'll use your fears, your doubts, your distractions, and your habits against you, until you're nothing more than a shell of the potential you were born with. This is the real war. Not the one fought with weapons or politics, but the one raging silently inside your thoughts. The war between your higher self and the voice that tells you, you're not enough. You'll never make it. Play it safe. Fit in. Stay silent. In that private conversation, I asked the devil everything. How he operates. Where he hides. Why so many people fail. And, more importantly, how to defeat him. What he told me changed everything I believed about success, fear, and freedom. The devil said that he controls 98 out of every 100 people. Not through violence or power, but through drifting. Drifting is the silent killer of dreams. It's the state of existing without purpose, of waking up with no mission, no clarity, no burning desire. It's living by habit, reacting to life instead of creating it. The drifter is the person who lets life just happen. Who follows the crowd. Who waits for the weekend, the next paycheck, the next external sign that it's finally time to live. But the truth is, that moment never comes. Because drifting is hypnotic. And the devil? He is the master hypnotist. He uses fear as his favorite tool. Fear of criticism. Fear of poverty. Fear of failure. Fear of success. Fear of losing love. Fear of getting old. Fear of death. One fear after another until your will is paralyzed and your vision is blurred. But he also uses more subtle tools. The school system that teaches memorization, not imagination. Religious dogma that shames curiosity. Political systems that reward obedience over originality. Parents who instill fear instead of freedom. Every time you shrink, settle, doubt, or hesitate, the devil grows stronger. And every time you stand tall, speak truth, or act with courage, he loses ground. You may not believe me. That's fine. The devil prefers it that way. He works best when you don't know he's there. But if you've ever felt stuck, numb, or hollow, if you've ever felt that you're meant for more, but can't seem to break through, then you've already met him. And this book, this conversation, might be the most important one you ever read. Because I will not only show you how the devil works, I will show you how to beat him. How to claim your mind back. How to stop drifting and start directing your life with intention and fire. I am not here to entertain you. I am here to wake you up. You've been taught to believe that evil wears a mask. That it's obvious, grotesque, loud. But the truth is that evil whispers. It blends in. It sounds like just being realistic. It tells you to wait, to avoid risk, to stay in line. But greatness doesn't live in safety. Freedom doesn't come to the obedient. Purpose doesn't grow in the soil of fear. If you want to rise above the masses, if you want to become one of the 2 out of 100 who are truly free, you must do something terrifying. You must think for yourself. That's where the devil loses. Not in prayer or punishment, but in thought. Independent, disciplined, courageous thought. This book is not for the weak. It is for the brave, the curious, the defiant. If you're ready to challenge everything you've been told about fear, failure, and the forces that shape your life, then keep reading. Because the devil is real. And he's counting on you to do nothing. The devil doesn't need to break your body to destroy you. All he needs is to get you to drift. Drifting is his most reliable weapon. And it's everywhere. It's in the man who works a job he hates but never questions it. In the woman who silences her dreams to be realistic. In the student who memorizes facts but never asks why. In the addict of routine, of television, of social media, of safety. Drifting is not laziness. It's not rebellion. It's surrender. Quiet, passive surrender. It begins with a subtle decision, often unnoticed. You stop thinking for yourself. You wait for someone to tell you what to do. You follow the path laid out, even if it leads nowhere. You silence your curiosity. You ignore your gut. You fear rocking the boat. And once drifting begins, it grows. Slowly, steadily. It becomes normal, expected, safe. That's exactly how the devil likes it. In my dialogue with him, he said it plainly, I control people through habits of thought. If I can get a man to think according to the patterns I prefer, I don't need to chain his body. His mind becomes my prison. He explained that drifting is not just a bad habit, it's a way of life for the vast majority of human beings. A state of unconsciousness that masquerades as normalcy. People don't even realize they're doing it. And why would they? They're surrounded by other drifters. They've been raised by them, taught by them, entertained by them, rewarded for imitating them. A drifter lives by default. He wakes up, goes through the motions, does what he's told, obeys the rules, avoids confrontation, avoids discomfort, avoids responsibility. His life is not driven by purpose, but by reaction. Not by desire, but by fear. And when the devil sees that, he smiles. He knows the drifter will never fight back. Because the drifter has forgotten he's in a fight. In my interview, I asked the devil how he knows when he has someone under his control. He said, a drifter is easy to spot. He has no definite major purpose. He speaks in generalities. He's full of excuses. He reacts to life instead of shaping it. He blames others. He chases distractions. He waits. Waits for what? That's the terrifying part. He doesn't even know. He waits for motivation. For inspiration. For the right moment. For someone else to change. For a sign from the sky. For retirement. For permission. For a feeling. For Monday. But time doesn't wait. And neither does the devil. Drifting is the silent cancer of potential. It eats away at your energy, your creativity, your clarity. It fogs your vision, dulls your senses, and numbs your ambition. It's the voice that says, just get through the day. Don't make a scene. Play it safe. Be patient. Later. Maybe someday. But someday becomes never. And you die, not from disease or violence, but from the slow erosion of who you were meant to be. The devil revealed that he encourages drifting through every possible channel. Through fear of criticism, so you keep your ideas to yourself. Through fear of failure, so you never take risks. Through fear of poverty, so you cling to jobs you hate. Through fear of rejection, so you betray your own truth. Through entertainment, so you stay distracted. Through conformity, so you never ask if the rules make sense. Through the illusion of time, so you always think you have more. A drifter is not someone with no talent. Often, he has great talent, great potential. But without direction, that potential decays. Without desire, talent sleeps. Without discipline, imagination dies. That's the trap. And it starts early. The devil told me that the education system plays a major role in this. Not because teachers are evil, but because the system rewards obedience, not originality. It trains students to remember answers, not ask questions. To wait for permission, not act with initiative. To aim for grades, not growth. By the time a child becomes an adult, drifting has already taken root. By then, the devil's job is easy. But drifting isn't just about inactivity. Sometimes it wears the mask of busyness. Some drifters are successful on paper, working 80-hour weeks, building careers, making money, but they have no idea why. They have no guiding purpose, no internal compass. They chase goals given to them by society, family, culture, not by soul. The devil said, a drifter can be rich or poor, educated or uneducated. What matters is whether he thinks for himself. That's the key. Drifting is the opposite of deliberate thought. It's passive consumption. It's going with the flow, not questioning the current. It's choosing comfort over growth, habits over insight, repetition over risk. And once you drift long enough, you forget how to lead your own mind. You become reactive, easily influenced, emotionally manipulated. Your attention span shrinks. Your willpower weakens. You rely on the next video, the next scroll, the next notification to guide your feelings. The devil doesn't care if you're happy or sad, working or unemployed, healthy or sick. He only cares about one thing, that you are not in control of your mind. Because once your mind is yours, he loses all power. That's why the first step in defeating the devil is to recognize where you're drifting. Ask yourself, do I have a definite major purpose in life? Do I wake up with clarity and mission? Do I decide how I spend my time, or do others decide for me? Do I act from desire or react from fear? Do I create or only consume? Do I question my habits, my beliefs, my routine? The answers will tell you if the devil has you in his grasp. But here's the good news. Drifting can be reversed. It begins with awareness, with brutal honesty, with the courage to admit, I've been living on autopilot. From there, the path opens. Because the opposite of drifting is direction, purpose, discipline, intention, vision. Once you start thinking for yourself, questioning everything, and acting with clarity, everything changes. Your energy returns. Your decisions sharpen. Your voice strengthens. Your fear weakens. And the devil? He flees. Because he cannot live in the mind of a man or woman who is awake. So if you feel lost, stuck, or numb, it may not be because you're broken. It may be because you're drifting. And drifting is not who you are. It's a condition, a trap, one you can escape, but only if you choose to lead your own mind. That is your greatest weapon, and the devil's greatest fear. The devil's systems. How schools, churches, and governments train obedient minds. The devil is not a monster in the shadows. He doesn't need to hide. He sits comfortably at the head of institutions that the world trusts most, schools, churches, and governments. And he smiles while billions of people hand over their minds, day after day, believing they are being educated, guided, and protected. In my interview with the devil, I asked, where do you gain the most influence over people's minds? His answer was immediate, in childhood. That's where the programming begins. That's where the trap is laid. That's where minds are softened, bent, and trained, not to think, but to obey. And the most effective delivery systems. Education, religion, politics. Let's begin with school. The devil said, I use the school system to teach children what to think, never how to think. Modern education was never designed to produce independent thinkers. It was built to produce compliant workers. People who follow instructions, wait for permission, and fear being wrong. It rewards memorization, punishes questioning, and grades children based on how well they fit the mold. From the first day of class, children are taught to sit still, raise their hands, stay quiet, follow the schedule, and seek approval from authority. Creativity is treated as disruption. Curiosity is labeled as disobedience. Year after year, the same message is drilled in. Follow the rules, stay inside the lines, chase external rewards. By the time a student graduates, they may have knowledge, but not wisdom. They may have skills, but not self-direction. They can pass tests, but can they lead their own life? The devil boasted, "A man who has never been taught to think for himself is mine forever." He may hold degrees, but he has no mental freedom. And the tragedy? Most people never escape this programming. They leave school and enter jobs where they do the same thing. Follow orders, chase performance reviews, wait for vacation. Their mind still belongs to someone else. They don't ask, "What do I want?" They ask, "What am I allowed?" Next comes religion. The devil was especially proud of this tool. He said, "Religion is my masterpiece." Why? Because it trains people to feel guilt, fear, and shame for simply being human. Religious institutions often tell followers they are born flawed. That doubt is sinful. That questioning sacred texts is dangerous. That suffering is noble. That thinking for yourself is rebellion against God. This turns people inward in the worst way. Not toward reflection, but toward self-punishment. They learn to distrust their intuition, repress their desires, and believe that joy must be earned through suffering. The devil laughed when he said, "I love when a man believes that every bold idea is a temptation, that every pleasure is a sin, that every independent thought is pride." Of course, not all spiritual paths are enslaving. Some elevate, some awaken. But institutions that seek power, over money, over morality, over the soul, often fall into the devil's trap, control through fear. And fear is the perfect leash. Because a fearful man doesn't rebel. He begs for forgiveness. And when he's told that salvation only comes through obedience to external authority, whether a priest, a holy book, or a tradition, he never claims his own spiritual power. He drifts, believing he's being righteous. Finally, we come to government. This is where the devil's reach becomes systemic, global, legal. He said, "I control governments by encouraging leaders to prioritize power over service, and citizens to trade freedom for security." Governments don't need to destroy liberty directly. They only need to create enough fear of the enemy, of the economy, of disease, of chaos, and people will surrender their rights willingly. They'll beg for more rules, more restrictions, more control. They'll accept surveillance, censorship, regulation. They'll call it safety. And those who question it, they'll be labeled unpatriotic, dangerous, crazy. The devil grinned and said, "It's easy. I pit one group against another, left versus right, rich versus poor, race versus race, and then I sit back and watch." The more people identify with political parties, the more they abandon independent thought. They don't ask, "Is this true?" They ask, "Does this align with my side?" They're not citizens. They're tribal soldiers, blindly defending ideas they never chose. And the result? Mass drift, division, dependence, confusion. People look to politicians to solve problems that only the individual can solve. Mindset, discipline, purpose, morality. The devil's systems are not about education, faith, or order. They are about mental dependency, making sure you never learn to lead yourself, never learn to question the script, never wake up. So how do you know if these systems have shaped your mind? Ask yourself, do I believe things just because I was taught them young? Do I accept rules without understanding their purpose? Do I fear authority figures? Do I feel guilty for thinking differently? Do I trust institutions more than my own intuition? If the answer is yes, the devil has already taken space in your mind. But this is not a condemnation. It's a wake-up call. Because once you recognize the manipulation, you can break it. The antidote is not rebellion for its own sake. It is conscious thought. Ask questions. Demand clarity. Test your beliefs. Follow truth, not tradition. Replace fear with understanding. A free mind is not anti-education, anti-faith, or anti-government. It is pro-awareness. It sees through illusion. Thinks, not reacts. It chooses, not obeys. That's why the devil fears thinkers more than warriors. A thinker cannot be enslaved. His greatest weapon is not anger, but insight. You must understand, the devil does not care what you believe, as long as you never question it. He doesn't care which party you vote for, as long as you fight with those who disagree. He doesn't care which religion you follow, as long as it keeps you ashamed and silent. He doesn't care how much you know, as long as you never use your mind to find your own truth. His goal is not destruction. It's stagnation. A world of intelligent slaves. Polite, obedient, comfortable, and utterly controlled. But there is another path. It begins the moment you stop trusting blindly and start thinking independently. It begins when you realize that obedience without purpose is not virtue. That discipline without direction is not freedom. That tradition without truth is not sacred. And it ends with your awakening. The devil's systems lose power the moment you reclaim your mind. When you stop being a product of your programming and become the architect of your own belief system. That's not easy, but that is freedom. And freedom is the devil's only defeat. The language of fear, how the devil speaks without words. The devil doesn't need to shout to control you. He only needs to whisper. Fear doesn't always show up as panic. More often, it arrives dressed in logic. It sounds reasonable. It sounds like your own voice. And that's the danger. In my conversation with the devil, I asked him, "What is your favorite tool for keeping people under your influence?" He didn't hesitate. Fear. Fear is the most powerful currency in the devil's economy. It infects thoughts, poisons dreams, and paralyzes action. It doesn't need chains, walls, or guards. Once planted in the mind, fear builds its own prison. The tragedy? Most people live in that prison without even realizing it. Let's be clear, fear isn't always dramatic. It doesn't always scream. It doesn't always come with sweat, racing hearts, or trembling hands. No. The devil's fear is quieter than that. More polite. More believable. It sounds like this. What if I fail? What will they think? I'm not ready yet. I should probably wait. That's not realistic. I'm too old. I'm too young. I need more time. Someone else is already doing it. I don't have what it takes. These thoughts don't come from your soul. They come from the voice of fear, the devil's native language. He speaks through hesitation, through doubt, through the inner critic that tears you down before you ever begin. And once you start believing that voice, you hand over the keys to your mind. The devil told me something chilling. I never force anyone to do anything. I simply suggest. I plant an idea, a doubt, a hesitation, and the human does the rest. You see, fear doesn't have to be true to be effective. It only has to be believed. It's not about reality. It's about perception. You can have all the talent, intelligence, strength, and potential in the world, but if fear convinces you to sit still, none of it matters. The devil loves talented people who never move. He loves dreamers who never act. He loves the intelligent who are too scared to speak up. Fear creates invisible chains, and those are the hardest to break because you don't fight them with force. You fight them with awareness. But here's the insidious part. The devil doesn't only use fear to keep you still. He uses it to keep you dependent. He feeds it through systems you trust. Through the media that says, "Be afraid." Through the expert that says, "You need us." Through the leader who says, "Only we can protect you." He creates a world where you're trained to look outside yourself for answers, for permission, for safety. And once you forget that your power lives inside you, he wins. He said, "The moment a man believes that safety is more important than growth, I own him." And that's what fear really does. It doesn't just keep you from taking risks. It makes you smaller. It shrinks your world. It shrinks your voice. It shrinks your future. It turns boldness into passivity, creativity into conformity, faith into doubt. And it gets worse. Fear doesn't just affect your actions. It rewires your mind. The more you obey fear, the more you reinforce it. You teach your brain that discomfort equals danger, that failure equals shame, that challenge equals risk. And soon, you don't even need the devil to whisper anymore. You've learned to speak his language fluently. You stop before starting. You water down your dreams. You shrink your goals. You silence your truth. You don't need a villain. You've become your own. But it doesn't have to be this way. There's another voice inside you. One that whispers too. It's softer at first, but infinitely more powerful. It says, "What if you succeed? What if you're stronger than you think? What if this fear is a lie? What if this is your moment? What if you are already ready?" That voice is not fantasy. It's not ego. It's your true self. The devil calls it dangerous, because once you start listening to that voice, you become unstoppable. But to hear it, you must become quiet, not distracted, not overwhelmed, not numb. You must pause, breathe, ask, is this fear real or inherited? Is this danger or discomfort? Is this my soul speaking or the devil manipulating? That is how you reclaim your mind. Not with violence, but with discernment. Fear only controls you when you believe it without question. So question everything, especially the thoughts that make you shrink. Because here's the truth. Fear is a liar. It says you can't, when you absolutely can. It says you're alone, when you've never been more guided. It says you'll fail, when failure is the very road to mastery. Fear will never go away completely, but it can lose its power. Not when you avoid it, but when you walk through it. The devil fears one kind of human more than any other. The one who feels fear and acts anyway, because that human cannot be stopped. So let me ask you, where is fear speaking in your life? What decision are you avoiding? What dream are you silencing? What conversation are you postponing? What truth are you afraid to admit? Find that fear. Look it in the eye and say, "You do not own me. Not anymore." Because fear is not your master. It is your teacher. And once you learn the lesson, the devil has nothing left to say. The devil's formula: doubt, delay, and distraction. The devil never comes with fire. He comes with fog. He doesn't need to burn your dreams down. He just needs to blur your vision. A little hesitation here, a little distraction there, and eventually, you forget what you were here to do. In my conversation with him, I asked, if fear is your favorite tool, what is your most effective strategy? He grinned. Confusion, hesitation, and wasted time. In other words, doubt, procrastination, and distraction. I don't destroy people. They destroy themselves. I just make it easier. That is the devil's true genius. He doesn't force failure. He designs environments where success becomes unlikely, and then he watches you fade. Let's start with doubt. Doubt is the crack in the mind where all rot begins. It whispers, "Are you sure?" Not because it wants an answer, but because it wants you paralyzed. One small seed of doubt can kill an idea before it's even born. It doesn't scream, "You're wrong." That would be too obvious. Instead, it murmurs, "Maybe this isn't the right time. Maybe you're not ready. Maybe you'll look stupid. Maybe someone else is better." And once doubt sets in, you stop trusting your instincts. You become addicted to outside opinions. You ask everyone what they think. You wait for a sign, for clarity, for certainty. But clarity never comes to the indecisive. The devil said, "If I can make a man question himself, he'll never take action. And I don't need to stop him. He'll stop himself." Doubt leads to the next poison: procrastination. The art of tomorrow. The dance of delay. The sweet lie that says, "Later will be better." But later is the devil's playground. He fills your tomorrow with new distractions, new fears, new excuses. And while you wait for perfect conditions, He eats your life one day at a time. Procrastination is not laziness. It's avoidance. It's choosing comfort over challenge, reaction over responsibility. You tell yourself, I'll do it when I feel motivated. I just need a little more research. I'll start Monday, after this season ends, when things settle down. But nothing ever settles. And the longer you delay, the heavier the weight becomes. The task grows in your mind. The shame grows with it. Soon, you're not just avoiding the work, you're avoiding yourself. And that's when the devil brings in his final weapon, distraction. Distraction is the thief of meaning. It gives you just enough stimulation to feel busy, but never enough depth to feel alive. He floods your world with noise, news, notifications, opinions, entertainment, endless content, always more, always louder, always urgent, but none of it matters. The devil said, if I can keep a man scrolling, I can keep him from thinking. And if I keep him from thinking, I keep him from growing. Distraction is the perfect tool, because it feels good. It relieves you. It rewards you. It seduces you. And while your soul starves, your brain is fed with junk food. You stay full and empty. This is the formula. Doubt makes you second-guess. Procrastination makes you delay. Distraction makes you forget. By the time you remember what you were meant to do, years are gone. The devil doesn't take your life. He steals your focus. And with that, your purpose, your power, your legacy. But there's one more element. The final ingredient in the formula. Guilt. Once you realize how long you've drifted, how much time you've lost, how many dreams you've buried, the guilt sets in. And the devil weaponizes that too. He whispers, you've wasted too much time. You've already failed. It's too late now. Who do you think you are to start over? And that guilt becomes shame. Shame becomes identity. And identity becomes a cage. Now you're not just a person who made mistakes. You believe you are a mistake. But here's the truth the devil doesn't want you to hear. You are never too far gone. Not 1 second of your life has been wasted if you decide to wake up now. Because while the devil can confuse, delay, and distract, he cannot control a mind that chooses clarity, urgency, and intention. So how do you fight back? Start here. Doubt. Turn it into a decision. Act before you're ready. Because readiness is a lie. Only action creates clarity. Procrastination. Burn the script. Do it now. Don't wait to feel like it. Let your future self thank you, not resent you. Distraction. Unplug the noise. Close the tabs. Create sacred space for deep thought. Not once a month, every day. Guilt. Forgive yourself. There is no power in shame. Only learning. Only progress. Only this moment. You don't need to do everything today. You just need to stop doing nothing. One step forward, while afraid, while uncertain, is all it takes to break the devil's grip. Because once you take action, you remember your strength. Once you focus, you remember your vision. Once you commit, you remember who you are. And then, the formula fails. The devil loses. He cannot influence the mind of someone who acts with purpose, who owns their time, who protects their focus like sacred ground, who moves, even through the fog. Let this be the moment you stop drifting. Not tomorrow. Not next week. No. This is your mind. This is your life. This is your power. And the devil? He only wins if you do nothing. The inner voice, the one the devil cannot touch. There is a voice within you that the devil cannot reach. It speaks in stillness. It rises in silence. It does not argue, shout, or beg for attention. But when you hear it, you know. It is not fear. It is not impulse. It is not logic. It is truth. And truth is the only thing the devil fears. In my conversation with him, I asked, is there anything you cannot influence? He paused. Only the man who listens to that voice, the one who walks with purpose, the one who thinks with clarity, the one who prays not as ritual, but as connection, that man I cannot touch. That voice goes by many names: intuition, conscience, the higher self, spirit, God. But whatever you call it, its source is the same. It is the divine fingerprint within you. You were born with it, before the fear, before the rules, before the guilt, before the programming. You knew what was right. You knew what felt alive. You knew when something was real. But over time, that voice was buried. By opinions, by shame, by noise, by fear. And in its place, the devil installed his whispers: doubt, hesitation, conformity, distraction, control. But the inner voice never died. It only waited, patiently. And when life breaks your illusion, when the noise becomes unbearable, when the pain of inauthenticity becomes louder than the fear of change, that voice returns, not to command you, not to scold you, but to invite you back to who you were before the world told you who to be. This voice is not emotional. It's not dramatic. It's anchored. It's wise. It's unchanging. It says things like, this is not who you are. You were made for more. You already know what to do. Trust. Let go. Begin. Return. And when you obey it, peace follows. Even if the path is hard. Even if it means walking alone. Even if no one understands. The voice doesn't promise ease. It promises alignment. It's not there to make you rich, popular, or admired. It's there to make you true. True to your calling. True to your values. True to your own soul. This is why the devil cannot access it. Because truth has no doorway for lies. The devil operates in confusion. This voice clarifies. The devil manipulates emotion. This voice grounds. The devil traps you in guilt. This voice sets you free. It doesn't argue. It doesn't convince. It simply waits for your permission. And when you give it space, your life begins to change. You begin to see differently. To act with certainty. To feel strength in your bones, even when you're afraid. You stop chasing validation. You stop apologizing for your path. You stop betraying yourself to be accepted. Because now, you are guided. Not by fear. Not by culture. Not by survival. But by truth. The inner voice is your compass. It always points home. So how do you hear it? Not by seeking more answers, but by subtracting the noise. You create quiet. Step away from the opinions. Unplug the distractions. Sit with your discomfort. Breathe through the fear. Be brutally honest. And then, listen. Not with your ears, but with your spirit. What am I avoiding? What truth have I been silencing? What decision feels scary, but right? What part of me needs to rise? You won't always like the answers, but you will recognize them. Because truth doesn't feel like pleasure. It feels like relief. It feels like coming home. The devil hopes you'll ignore this process. That you'll stay busy. That you'll stay numb. That you'll keep asking others instead of asking yourself. But the moment you return to your own soul, he loses ground. Because once you are connected to your voice, you cannot be bought. You cannot be manipulated. You cannot be rushed. You cannot be enslaved. You become something terrifying to the devil. A free mind. Not rebellious for show, but sovereign in essence. You don't need approval. You don't need noise. You don't need to convince anyone. You know who you are. And that is unshakable. So if you feel lost, go inward, not outward. Turn down the volume of the world and turn up the whisper of the Spirit. It's been there all along, waiting, not to control you, but to awaken you. This is the voice that says, "You are enough. You are ready. You are loved. You are chosen. You are still in time. You are not what happened to you. You are not your fear. You are divine." And once you live from that voice, nothing the devil says will ever sound convincing again. Because truth, once heard, cannot be unheard. And once remembered, it sets you free. Defeating the devil. Purpose, discipline, and mastery of mind. The devil does not fear strength. He fears clarity. Not volume. Not confidence. But the unshakable certainty of a human being who knows why they're alive. When I asked him directly, "What breaks your influence over a person?" his answer was instant. A definite major purpose, backed by discipline. That kind of mind is dangerous. You see, the devil doesn't need to control people through brute force. He prefers chaos, confusion, emotional storms. But a mind that is organized, focused, and directed, that mind becomes impossible to manipulate. Let's begin with the first weapon. Definite major purpose. Most people wander through life without ever deciding why they're here. They follow paths assigned to them by parents, teachers, media, or fear. They collect degrees, jobs, possessions, but never a true mission. They react to life, never design it. That is the first victory of the devil. He doesn't care what you do. He only cares that you didn't choose it consciously. A person without purpose is like a ship without a rudder. Moved by wind, tossed by waves, always moving, but going nowhere. Purpose changes everything. It gives direction to thought. It filters decisions. It ignites energy. It repels distraction. It gives meaning to pain. With purpose, even failure becomes fuel. Without it, even success feels hollow. The devil said, "The moment a man defines his purpose and aligns every thought, habit, and action to it, he becomes unreachable." But clarity alone is not enough. That's why the second weapon is discipline. Discipline is not punishment. It's not restriction. It's freedom, earned through structure. Discipline is what turns ideas into results, dreams into plans, wishes into outcomes. It is the ability to do what must be done, even when you don't feel like it. And that's exactly why the devil fears it. Because emotion is his favorite playground. He wants you tired, moody, overwhelmed, reactive. He wants your actions to be ruled by how you feel. But discipline breaks that cycle. Discipline says, "I don't negotiate with laziness. I don't delay my calling. I don't wait for perfect conditions. I show up, even when it's hard." A disciplined mind is not rigid. It's trained, sharpened, resilient. It gets stronger under pressure, more focused under noise, more powerful under attack. That's why few people ever master it, and why those who do become unstoppable. Now, combine purpose and discipline, and you get the third and final weapon, mental mastery. Mental mastery means you lead your thoughts. They don't lead you. You are the thinker, not the thought. You are the observer, not the emotion. You are the architect, not the reaction. This is where most people surrender. They believe every thought they think. They identify with every feeling they feel. They never question, never challenge, never take control. But a master of the mind does not follow the voice in his head. He evaluates it. He confronts it. He trains it. He feeds it truth. He reprograms it with intention. He knows that the mind is not a mirror. It is a garden. And if left unattended, the devil will plant weeds. So the master plants differently. He chooses thoughts that build, not break. That elevate, not shrink. That align, not distract. He practices stillness. He cultivates focus. He protects his attention like sacred ground. And the devil? He starves. Because where clarity reigns, confusion dies. Where discipline grows, distraction fades. Where the mind is sovereign, no outside force can dominate it. Let's be clear. Mastering your mind does not mean you never feel fear, doubt, or pain. It means those feelings don't get to drive. They are passengers, not captains. Signals, not orders. The person who wins against the devil is not emotionless. They are aware. They notice the whisper of fear and still act. They hear the pull of procrastination and still move. They feel the temptation to drift and return to their purpose. That is power. And that is possible for you. Here's how to start. Write your purpose clearly. Not a vague dream. A definite major purpose. Why are you here? Who must you become? What will your life stand for? Design your daily disciplines. Not just goals. Rituals. Actions that align your time, energy, and attention with your mission. You don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the level of your habits. Guard your mind. Audit your inputs. Reduce noise. Increase intention. Every thought is a seed. Every seed becomes a result. Think deliberately, or be controlled unconsciously. Train under pressure. Discomfort is not the enemy. It is the gym of the soul. Show up when it's hard. Lead yourself when motivation is gone. Consistency is your armor. Track progress, not perfection. The devil loves shame. So refuse it. Progress, no matter how small, defeats stagnation. Momentum is holiness in motion. Return quickly. You will drift. You will fall. You will forget. That's okay. Winners don't avoid mistakes. They recover fast. This is not philosophy. This is war. And in this war, the battlefield is your mind. Every day. Every thought. Every choice. But here's the truth the devil hopes you'll never realize. You were never weak. You were simply unfocused, untrained, distracted. Now you know. Now you choose. The path to freedom is not paved with emotion. It is carved by decisions. And the decision is this. Lead your mind, or be led by fear. There is no middle ground. Purpose is the sword. Discipline is the shield. Mastery is the territory you protect. The devil will return. He will whisper. He will test. But the moment your mind becomes your kingdom, he cannot enter. Ever again. Final block, the devil's defeat. A wake-up call to the soul. You were never born to be afraid. You were never meant to live small, confused, exhausted, or numb. You were never designed to obey blindly, drift aimlessly, or surrender your power to fear. You were made for something higher. Something unshakable. Something real. But somewhere along the way, you forgot. Not because you were weak. Not because you failed. But because the world taught you to forget. You were taught to behave, not to think. To follow, not to lead. To doubt, not to believe. To stay safe, instead of becoming free. And behind that system, whispering quietly through your fears, your hesitation, your guilt, was the devil. Not the devil of fairy tales or horror stories. Not a horned monster in fire. But something far more dangerous. A force that lives in unawareness. A parasite that feeds on drifting. A shadow that grows stronger every time you avoid responsibility for your own mind. In this journey, we've exposed him. We've seen how he operates, not through violence, but through silence. Not through force, but through suggestion. Not through destruction, but through delay. He doesn't need to destroy your dreams. He just needs you to say, not yet. He doesn't need to lock you in chains. He just needs you to stay distracted. To stay confused. To stay numb. The devil wins the moment you stop leading your own mind. But now, you know. You've seen the tricks. Drifting, that slow decay of your purpose while you scroll, wait, and react. Fear, dressed up as logic, hiding in your what-ifs and maybes. Doubt, the assassin of destiny that kills more potential than failure ever could. Procrastination, the beautiful lie of tomorrow, while your soul starves today. Distraction, the endless stream of noise that drowns the whisper of your calling. Guilt, the weight that keeps you stuck in the past instead of using it as fuel. And you've also seen the antidote. You've met the voice that the devil cannot imitate, the one inside you, the one that never left. It was always there, in the quiet, in your intuition, in the burning sense that you were meant for something more. That voice doesn't shout. It doesn't sell you comfort. It speaks in truth. And when you follow it, life aligns. We've learned that the greatest act of rebellion against darkness is not anger, not rage, but clarity. You do not overcome fear by waiting for it to vanish. You overcome it by moving through it. You do not silence the devil by screaming back. You silence him by leading your mind. And how do you lead? With 3 sacred tools: purpose, discipline, mastery. Let's say them again. Purpose, the why that makes you unshakable. A clear mission, a burning vision, a decision to live deliberately, not based on what others want, not based on the expectations of your past, but on the truth of your soul. Without purpose, you drift. With purpose, you command. Discipline, the how that makes you unstoppable. The daily decision to act, even when you don't feel like it. To honor your mission when it's hard. To show up when it's boring, when it's scary, when it's inconvenient. Discipline isn't restriction, it's liberation. It turns potential into legacy. And finally, mental mastery, the fortress. A mind that is no longer reactive. No longer victim to doubt, fear, or noise. A mind that is trained, quiet, focused. A mind that no longer listens to every thought, but chooses which ones deserve attention. This is how you become sovereign. This is how you become free. Because once you own your mind, the devil is finished. He has no weapon left. He cannot hypnotize the conscious. He cannot confuse the clear. He cannot delay the committed. So now the question is not, is the devil real? You've already seen enough to know the answer. The question is, who are you going to be now that you know? Are you going to drift or decide? Hesitate or lead? Wait or move? You don't need another sign. You don't need more motivation. You don't need perfection. You need to begin. Right here. With what you have. Because the moment you decide, everything changes. You become the exception. The 2% the devil cannot touch. The man or woman who walks with vision, thinks with clarity, and acts with power. You stop being a slave to fear. You stop being a puppet of doubt. You stop living for the opinions of the blind. You return home, to your voice, to your truth, to your path. The devil may still whisper, but now you know the difference. And once truth is known, it cannot be undone. You were not created to be ruled by fear. You were not made to drift through life half awake. You were born to rise. So rise. Not with rage, but with responsibility. Not with noise, but with vision. Not to prove anything, but because you remembered who you are. And that is the devil's final defeat. Not your success, not your fame, not your wealth, but your awakening. When you see the trap and walk away. When you hear the lie and choose truth. When you feel the fear and act anyway. You become untouchable. So here's your final message. The devil is real. He lives in confusion, in fear, in delay. But he is nothing compared to the fire in a soul who decides to wake up. Now it's your turn. Don't drift. Don't wait. Don't forget. Lead your mind. Live your purpose. And never, ever, give the devil back the keys.